in conversation with Yousef, and right now I have a very pertinent question for him, because I think a lot of international students especially would like to know that achieving a grad role is a little challenging at this point in time. So I would like to know from him, what is his advice for international students who are looking for the grad roles?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Ishani. So I would say to that 3 points. As an international student, most of the times you are limiting your scope when you're applying for jobs. Meaning, if I'm a business student, I'm only looking to work in the big 4 banks and sort of, those mining companies or big 4 consultancies. And I would only apply to these most of the time as international students. Now that's the wrong start, because most of these companies don't accept international students. Some do, and you should apply. It's competitive, but you should definitely apply. But most don't, right? So you're already limited in your scope when you start. To counter that, you should expand your search. So a couple of actionable steps. Literally going on Google and searching. For example, I'm an accounting student, say accounting internships Melbourne, right? Or list of boutique accounting firms Adelaide, right? The first 2 or 3 will be big companies, and you already know they don't accept international students. But the second 8 would be either a list of companies you've never heard of, and there are big companies, there are like 100+ employees, right? They are a lot more willing to accept international students, not only for internship, even for entry roles, right? The second thing is being a bit more creative, right? As you know, the Business Insider estimates 70 to 85% of jobs are never advertised. And this goes back to the point we mentioned about networking, right? So as an international student, if you know that the application process is lengthy and there is a disadvantage for you in most applications, then just approach it the other way. Start connecting with professionals. Now we're in COVID and you're like, how can I connect? I don't know anyone. No, you already have a network. You should cap on that network. So a few things you can do. Go to your LinkedIn. If you don't have LinkedIn, make LinkedIn. Add all of your contacts from other social networks, Instagram, Facebook, colleagues from other jobs, family, friends. I know this is not, you say, but they don't work in the same field. What's the point? Well, this is part of your network. That's how you grow your network. Second, start connecting with professionals in the industry, right? So I'm not suggesting when you connect, and this is also in the book in chapter 3, but when you connect with professionals, never ask for a job in the first message. Don't say, hey, just graduated, do you have a job for me? Because that's an automated no, or they'll just ignore you, right? Always, people are more willing to help you and give advice when they feel like their advice is appreciated, versus you feel like you're just asking for something. So what you can do instead, and I'm sure most of your students would know, I guess most of your audience would know how to work on LinkedIn or how to find connections. But in simple terms, you go on the search on LinkedIn, you search for second-degree connections, you search for the industry. So say second-degree connections, the industry is finance and accounting, for example. And then you would see a list, depending on your size of network, could be 2,000, could be 500, right? If it's too much of a list, like 2,000, definitely don't connect to all of them. Narrow it even further. I'm studying at University of Melbourne, so I'll go by school, University of Melbourne. So anyone who studied at University of Melbourne, works in this sector, and is a second-degree connection, someone I already know someone in common with, I will connect with them. Now, I'm not going to connect and ask for a job again. I'm going to connect and say, hey, I see you're also a Melbourne Uni alumni, would love to connect. Or that's a close-ended message, and they'll say thank you for the connection, and that's it, right? Or an open-ended message. Hey, I see that you work in such and such. This is a field of interest to me. Do you have any tips for me as a graduate, right? They would love to respond. They would love to help you, because people love helping, but they don't like to feel you're taking advantage of them, right? So that's how I would approach it, connecting with more professionals, but more importantly, being creative in how you approach it. What I mean by that, most of the time, the opportunity you are looking is right in front of your eyes. Meaning, for example, Ishani, you're doing a lot of volunteering work and you're working at Melbourne University. There might be a role at Melbourne University that you don't know about yet, right? Just through contact, someone recommends you and you get that role. Yeah. Similarly, a lot of international students, by definition, because they're independent, they're really proactive about volunteering and helping other people. So that organization that you work at volunteering, that might be the role that you're seeking. Literally just put the word out there, say I'm looking for internship or graduate entry role in that position, that might be the role. I know personally, I worked at Coles for years during university, and with me when working as cashiers and customer service, 2 of the 3, customer service representatives were international students, and they both got transferred to head office, one in accounting department and marketing, because of their degrees, right? So there might be an opportunity where you are, and you are just making it harder for yourself. So there's a lot of strategies to counter that. I understand the visa is a big aspect of an international student. I'm in no position to give any advice there. Address it with your legal, professional lawyer, but just be a bit creative. Applying on Seek or LinkedIn is good, but it's not always the only way. Be a bit more creative in where you find these opportunities, and you will find them, because think about it, thousands of international students find jobs and stay in Australia. Just like thousands go, thousands stay in here. So think about how can you make it work for you? How can you not really take advantage, but how can you work the system? Because the system in a lot of aspects is designed to not encourage international students to work for these firms. So you have to think of other ways. If your goal, for example, as an international student to work for Deloitte or EY, you can always join as a letter hire later on. You don't have to join as a graduate, right? So you have to think that you still have a whole career ahead of you, right? This 6 months or a year does not define where you end up or what you get in terms of branding or professional position, right? So always keep that perspective in mind when you're applying for jobs.
That's great, because I feel like I have hit the nail today. I have been trying to look for the answer for this question since the past 2 years, since the time I've arrived, that there has to be a way out for this particular situations that we have. And thank you for addressing that so precisely, telling us what are the steps that one can take. And people who are listening to us, I can assure you about one of the steps that Yousef just mentioned about using LinkedIn, the connections, that the way you use a connection, you go to your university alumni panel and then you search for people in that. Though exactly what he mentioned, it has worked for me, it has worked from some of my friends. It takes time, but everything takes time, and you really need to be consistent and put things out there. Something is better than nothing. We have heard that, and I'm sure if you're really interested in a particular field, you will find out ways to get a job in that field, and then you can build up to your dream company, or do your own start your own venture if that's what you're looking at. So everyone is on their own journey, and as Yousef mentioned, this is a unique journey. And I'm happy that we're able to share so many strategies way out to them as early on possible. Thank you, Yousef, for this extra special segment for the international students. I'm really grateful to you to answer this question.
Thank you so much for your question. Thanks for having me again.